joints right here, man, that you play when you feeling down on your ism, right? Play this shit right here and resuscitate your pimping and get you right back on your mission, right? For you hoes, just that shit you play when you ain't feeling like super hoe today. Play this shit right here and spark up your hoeing and get you right back going, you dig? Dig this. Pimps for real, don't mistake it for fashion. The turf that birthed my reputation for mashing was the track with active, attractive hoes. Professional goers that attract the dough. Like magnets to metal, never settle. We scorching them fag bitches pedal for them portions. My whores win it all. Not the ones on the sideline wishing but didn't ball in the guidelines. My bitches did it all. Down 7 below in the snow for dough. Over 120 in the sun for fun. They mash for hours, hooker baths, not showers. Bright and early, down and dirty for the cash and power. They gotta get the cash, the towers, and reach it all to a pimp. In my position, I'm all but exempt. These bras not wimps, I'm like them renegade bitches. BFFs with tricks but never getting paid riches. Grenade bitches, they dynamite, blowing up on the pimpin' and missing when the time is right. But when they life gets strife, they see pimpin' shining bright, but they action is life without. Bitch, one strike you out. Can't stop, won't stop. Poppin' pimpin', nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Smashing on these bitches, nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Poppin' pimpin', nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Smashing on these bitches, nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Poppin' pimpin', nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Smashing on these bitches, nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Poppin' pimpin', nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Smashing on these bitches, nigga. See, that's the difference, nigga. The pimpin' mashin' for these riches, nigga. Nothing like you master magician niggas. Smoking mirrors with your game, hella extras to reflect the opposite appearance of a lame. Bitches coming from y'all, I can't rock with those. Tender-footed and rooted in them doctor shows. Soft shoe rituals, minute residuals. Papers on life support, your loots and critical. Something I learned about when running my earned route and working with turnouts is murdering burnouts. Cause knocking one of you niggas for a scarred bitch, that's knocking one of you niggas for some garbage. I'm heartless regardless, empty with sympathy, but banked up to the max with pimpathy. No remedy for me, I'm like this. My life is vice grip, synced in permanent ink. You can't rewrite this. My blood type is P positive, beautifully deposited with a lot of it. I'm popping this shit, and when I pop it so hard I make a trapping ass bad bitch wanna hoe hard. Can't stop, won't stop. Poppin' pimpin', nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Smashing on these bitches, nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Poppin' pimpin', nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Smashing on these bitches, nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Poppin' pimpin', nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Smashing on these bitches, nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Poppin' pimpin', nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Smashing on these bitches, nigga. Come on, pimpin', man, pop that shit. Show these sucker niggas they can't stop that shit. Let these hookers know if they wanna cop that shit. Treat the bag like it's hot, bitch, and drop that shit. And to you hoes, if you ever took a loss, bitch, show these bitches how to bounce back like a boss, bitch. Let them know that the best way to floss, bitch, is reach that paper to some pimpin' hoe and toss it. Can't stop, won't stop. Poppin' pimpin', nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Smashing on these bitches, nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Poppin' pimpin', nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Smashing on these bitches, nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Poppin' pimpin', nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Smashing on these bitches, nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Poppin' pimpin', nigga, can't stop, won't stop. Smashing on these bitches, nigga. right. Okay, everybody should be able to hear me cool, man. Y'all already know what to do, man. Wipe your feet off at the door when you step into a pimp's domain. Hit that like button. Y'all already know my first order of business. A pimp got to hydrate his game, put some love in my body. Hopefully y'all put some love in your body too. And hopefully I got enough love to make it through this live, because when I scheduled this live, I wasn't thinking that I was about to run out of love. But see, this time I ain't in the same situation like I was last time. Y'all remember probably a couple weeks ago, I ran out of love, man. I was upset with myself because everything in that area was closed at that time. But I'm in a bigger city now, down here in this Bogota, Colombia. So, you know, it's shit open around here right now. And if I'd have been thinking, I could have went and got some more love. But hey, it's all good though, man. We still gonna chop this shit and pop this shit. Cheers to the gang. Yeah, like Sharif say, man, you know, in the words of Kenny Red, man, long live, man, you know, this pimping do wonders, man. And that's why I wanted to do this live, you know, because you got certain individuals that come from this game that forget. Sometimes, you know, they allow their circumstance or what have you to allow them to forget that this pimping do wonders, man. But man, we gonna talk about it, man. We gonna talk about it and put you in remembrance for those of y'all who may not remember right now that this pimping do wonders, man. You know, this one kind of go for, like, you know, a lot of veterans, but even, you know, certain young cats too that might be, you know, going through it to get to it for the first time, or, you know, whatever the circumstance is, man. You know, this is for, you know, any gentleman in the game, you know, whether younger or older or what have you, man, did end up in certain circumstances and you allow yourself to forget, man, the power of this pimping. Hey, man, you know, you got to understand that circumstances don't make you. Circumstances ain't going to break you. You know, you are who you are before the circumstance and in spite of the circumstance. You got to remember who you are, man. You know, man, I done seen this pimpin' do so many beautiful things, man, for cats. And man, I done seen it go ugly. I done seen it go good. I done seen it go great. And, you know, speaking to the older cats, right? Because a lot of times, you know, cats will get upper in age and they might get to leaking and shit like that. And, you know, they'll allow that shit to play psychologically on their mind in a messed up way, right? And, you know, so I just wanted to talk about, you know, some different scenarios that I can recall where, you know, some older gentlemen in the game, you know, was still doing their thing like they was in their prime, you dig? And really the way I see it, man, is when you hit your 40s and your 50s, that's really when you in your prime as a man, right? For real. So, especially in today's times, man, it's just something about, you know, those of us that was born in the 70s and 80s, man, you know, we a different breed, man. If you was born in the 70s and 80s, man, you know, we just a different breed, man. You know, we got that thing where it's like we don't look as old as the 40 and 50-year-olds before us. And the people that's in their 20s and 30s right now look older than us. You know what I mean? So it's like we in the game, you dig? Like we really the shit right now, man. Hey, listen, man, if you's a pimp right now in your 40s and your 50s, man, hey, listen, we don't look like our you know, the elders that came before us that was when they was at our age, you know what I mean? We don't look as old as they looked. And then on top of that, I just gotta call a spade, man. A lot of these young cats, they doing all kind of shit to their body, man, that we didn't do to our bodies, man. Cause we grew up on the Dare program. You did. We grew up where rappers was rapping about how it wasn't cool to be a dope fiend. We grew up where, in the neighborhoods that we come from, it just wasn't cool to be a dope fiend, man. Dope fiends was ostracized and outcasted and what have you, right? So it wasn't anything that was glamorized. But unfortunately, and I don't really knock them for it because they really don't know any better. They was just born into a time where this is what's going on. But hey, man, these 20s and a lot of these people in their 20s and 30s, man. Hey, man, they aging like bananas in cartons of milk, man, because they doing so much foul shit to their body, man. So, here it is, like I said, we in our 40s and 50s, those of us that 70s and 80s babies, and we don't look as old as the 40 and 50-year-olds that came before us. And then, man, these 20 and 30-year-olds, man, they looking rough, man. They run themselves through the mud, man. So, hey, man, shout out to hold on, man. I got to give us a round of applause, man. Man. Shout out to the motherfucking 40 and 50-year-olds right now that's born in the 70s and the 80s, man. Shout out to us, you dig? But, so we have that in our favor, right? Those of us that are in their 40s and 50s right now. A lot of us don't look as old as we actually are. And for the record, I'm in the 40s class. I ain't in the 50s class. You know what I mean? I'm just saying 40s and 50s together because, those of us that was born in the 70s and 80s, anywhere between the late 30s and 50s. But I'm just talking about the ones of us that are in our 40s and 50s. If you're born in the 80s, you might be in your late 30s. But I'm talking about those of us that's in our 40s and 50s. You dig? I'm in the 40 side of it. You dig? But yeah, man. Not only do we have that in our favor, just the youthful look, but on top of that, if you take care of yourself a certain way, man, hey, these young chicks, man, they just really love a grown ass man. That's another thing about it. And maybe because you got so many young cats nowadays that just, run themselves through the mud and they aging badly, but whatever the reason is, whatever the case is, man, I could speak for myself, and I know I'm not the only one to whom this applies, but hey, man, them chicks in their 20s and 30s, man, and, just for the sake of the game, we're going to talk about the ones in the 20s, man. Hey, me, myself, I guess because I'm built like somebody that's in their 20s, hey, or whatever it is, man, I don't know, but a lot of young ladies are attracted to me. I have no shortage of chicks in their 20s, man, that's attracted to a pimp. You dig? So that's part of the catching, and as we say in the game, the catching come before the hanging, right? But that's part of the catching, though. You dig? That's part of a pimp's tools in his toolbox is, especially when you get older, man. You got to take care of yourself a certain way, man. One older cat that never looked too old was a veteran partner of mine by the name of Stiffy out there in Richmond, California, man. And I remember I was in Hawaii with Stiffy. And, for those of y'all who don't know Stiffy on swole, take good care of himself and shit. And when I was in Hawaii with Stiffy, he was like in the age range that I'm in now. He was like in his early 40s. And I was in my late 20s at the time, right? And, this is before I made fitness like really, really my lifestyle. I wasn't really serious about working out like that. And I wasn't like, I never was big. I never was like fat and obese, but I just wasn't in shape either. I was just like average looking, and Stiffy used to really encourage me to start working out, you know what I mean? And he would always tell me about all the benefits of just working out, how, it plays in your favor in so many different ways, right? So, but I say all that to say Stiffy was an example of somebody back at that time that I saw before myself being in his age group now, who was like an older gentleman that was in shape, looked young, took care of himself, and stayed having young bitches. You know what I mean? Was doing his thing. So yeah, man, for the cats that's older, I don't want you to think that, because you older that you can't do this and you can't do that. And especially if you might not be in position right now. Don't allow your circumstance to discourage you, and don't allow yourself to determine in your mind that this circumstance amounts to everything that you are and who you are, and it's going to determine how your future go. Nah, it ain't got to be like that, man. But yeah, back to what I was saying about different older cats I know that was in their 40s and 50s, man, that did some amazing things in the game, that wasn't in the best of positions when they did it. But the things that they did put them in a better position, man. A lot of y'all remember me talking about Baby Mike. I did a video about Baby Mike, man. Baby Mike was or is, a veteran partner of mine out that Portland, Oregon, right? And Baby Mike, he and I ended up in a situation where we both was leaking together, right? Both of our peoples had caught a case together, a robbery case together. And so both of them sat in the county for like 3 or 4 months, right? So when this happened, that was my only peoples and his only peoples at the time, right? And so when they went and sat down, naturally we, went through a little rough patch for a minute, right? And one thing about Mike always had personality. He always was funny, you know what I mean? He was always, and he always had like upbeat energy and shit like that, right? But so and then Mike took care of himself. He was another older guy, because like I'm saying, at this time, this is during a time where I was in my late 20s and Mike was in his like mid 40s, right? So, but Mike took care of himself. He worked out, was in shape, tall, you know what I mean? And he had personality, and he had charisma and shit like that, right? So me and Mike, like I said, we leaking. And I told y'all before about how the thing that me and Mike used to do is we'll call chicks off a Backpage, because this is during the Backpage days, and we would challenge ourselves to see who could keep a chick on the phone for at least 5 minutes. And if you couldn't keep a chick on the phone for 5 minutes, you owe 50 push-ups, right? So we doing our little push-up challenge, man. It's just like a little pimp challenge, man. We would take turns. I'll call somebody, he'll call somebody. And if you keep a chick on the phone for at least 5 minutes, you good. But if you can't, you got to do 50 push-ups, right? So me and Mike, we doing that. And he calls this beautiful, island young lady on Backpage. You know what I mean? And long story short, he ended up knocking her. But, they had a very prosperous future together. You dig? They had a nice little run together, man. And like I said, this is when Mike is in his mid 40s. The chick who he knocked at the time, she probably was like in her mid 20s and early to mid 20s, somewhere up in there. And gorgeous young lady, money getting young lady. And, Mike didn't, but see, the thing about it was, Mike didn't allow his circumstance to fuck with his self-esteem. He didn't allow his age to fuck with his self-esteem. He stayed in the spirit of pimping throughout that little rough patch that we went through together and pimped through together. And that was the thing about it too. We had each other to keep each other spirits right as far as this game go. You dig? We kept each other strong in the spirit of pimping. Right. And see, that's another important factor too, man. When you going through your little rough patches in the game, man, especially if you might be older, man, you got to stay fellowshipping. You got to stay, in communication with your partners, man, to keep your batteries charged up at all times, man. Even if you only might got one partner to chop it up with, man, you need to chop it up with him as much as possible, man. But if you got a collective of individuals that you could chop it up with that's gonna keep your spirits right and keep you on fire about this game, you have to do that. It's mandatory because without it, it just makes things that much more challenging when they don't have to be as challenging. You dig? Like I've told y'all before, man. Because a lot of times when a pimp might be going through it, he could use a jug, a financial jug, and sometimes that's cool, but other times, man, the most powerful and best jug that you can get is just chopping it up with some pimping. A lot of times that conversation that you have with some pimping will take you a lot further away than that financial jug. But the financial jug might be necessary sometimes because you might really be going through it. But man, it'd be other times, man, where you just chop it up with Pimpin' and have a good conversation with Pimpin', man, and Pimpin' put you in remembrance of the things that you've accomplished in your career and the things that you're capable of, and how you might have lost the material things. You might not have them same ladies no more that you made certain accomplishments with, but one thing that you still do have is yourself and the pimpiness within you, right? Everything that's in you that you utilize to create those, legendary moments within your career, that's still within you. You still got that, which means you still got the source. You still got the source of everything that was created from you, which is yourself, right? So you got to always remember that, right? But yeah, man, like I said, Mike, man, he did some beautiful things, man, with that young lady, and he was an older cat, and man, when I say he did his thing, man, he did his thing for real. Another older cat who some of y'all might have remembered me mentioning before is a gentleman by the name of Dennis Jones, man, out that Memphis, Tennessee, man. I don't know where Dennis Jones is or what's going on with him right now. But, blessings to Dennis Jones, right? But Dennis Jones, first of all, as far as his history go, hey, man, in them 80s, in them 1980s, man, in that New York City, in that Manhattan, hey, Dennis Jones was like the king of New York at that time. He was pimping up a storm around that motherfucker, and he was a force to be reckoned with. He was somebody that, you did not want in your business. You did. And he was in a lot of people's business, man. And a lot of people admired him. A lot of people, despised him. But for the most part, everybody respected him. You dig? And yeah, Dennis Jones, man, he's a legendary figure in the game, man. Like I say, out that Memphis, Tennessee. But naturally, by me being a lot younger, by the time I crossed paths with Dennis Jones, he's an older gentleman at that time, man. And I'd have seen Dennis Jones go up and down a few times, man. But I just remember one particular time, man, I seen Dennis Jones in Vegas, and he was fucked up. I'm talking about fucked up. Didn't have nothing, not a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. And at this time, Dennis Jones probably was like in his 50s. Mid to late 50s at this time, you dig? Because I would imagine Dennis Jones would be in like his 70s right now. So at this time that I'm talking about, man, he probably was in his 50s. But fucked up though, you know what I mean? Leaking, going through it. But one thing about Dennis Jones, he's a fly motherfucker. He's also somebody with mouthpiece personality and got a cold pimp mind. Gamed up like a motherfucker. You dig? So, man, like I said, it was one day I seen him. Matter of fact, I think I was with T-Mac. Me and T-Mac was together, who y'all have also heard me talk a lot about. Me and T-Mac was together. We seen Dennis Jones, I want to say, on that Spring Mountain in that Valley View, like over in that area, right? He fucked up. Then, man, it couldn't have been no more than like a week or two later, man. It's like a week or two later. Then we see Dennis Jones. He in a motherfucking, I want to say it was a yellow H2. I'm pretty sure it was an H2, and I want to say it was a yellow one. But he was in a yellow H2 with a badass blonde bitch in that motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, just pimped up quick as hell. You know, and this is an older cat. You dig? Doing his thing. And see, you know, that's one thing about, fortunately for him, you know, Dennis Jones, he just a cold pimp. But on top of that, you know, at least during these times, it was a lot of pimping in Vegas. You know, so as far as, you know, somebody going through that circumstance and, you know, having a need to charge your batteries up, your pimp batteries up on a regular basis, hey, man, at that time, not only was it just a lot of pimping around Vegas, but it was a lot of veteran pimps around Vegas, like his contemporaries, right? So, you know, Dennis Jones had a lot of veteran pimps to rub elbows with and, you know, sharpen his steel with and keep his batteries charged up with. You dig? So, yeah, you know, that's another individual, man, that I saw that was upper in age and didn't have no problem knocking a badass, money-getting ass young bitch. You dig? Another individual who y'all have heard me talk a lot about that, you know, I met when he was upper in age, and I've seen him leaking and I've seen him pimp up in his 50s, is Mac Man. Mac Man is another individual, man. For those of y'all who might not recall, Sinful has talked a lot about Mac Man. I've talked a lot about Mac Man. Mac Man is originally out there in New York. And, you know, when Sinful and I met Mac Man, he was probably in his mid-50s. He was probably like early to mid-50s when we met Mac Man. Somewhere up in there, right? But Mac Man, you know, he matter of fact, I think when me and Sinful had met Mac Man, he was kind of still fresh out of prison. But you know, because Mac Man, he did like I want to say a 24-year stretch in prison. You dig? He did a long stretch in prison, man. But you know, Mac Man was pimping in the 70s. A lot of them cats that was pimping in Hollywood in the 70s remember Mac Man from back in them days. And, you know, Mac Man is, you know, when you want to talk about intellectual capacity, Mac Man is a brilliant motherfucker, man. The thing about Mac Man, you know, he don't always use his brilliance for righteous endeavors, right? But nonetheless, one thing you can't take away from Mac Man is his brilliance, man. Like, mentally, he's a brilliant motherfucker, right? Mac Man, his mind he got an amazing mind, man. That's one thing I could say about Mac Man that I admire about him is his intellectual capacity. He's a brilliant motherfucker, right? And you know, with that being said, you know, Mac Man, like I said, his brilliance ain't always used for good. So Mac Man can be a crafty motherfucker as well. But nonetheless, I have seen Mac Man pimp up from nothing to like having a pocket full of money, a car, and all this shit. And I've seen Mac Man do this a few times, you know what I mean? In his 50s. You know, ain't got no problem knocking a young bitch. You know, back at that time, Mac Man, he used to have the braids, and he used to have the little Stevie Wonder beads and shit like that. You know, and you know, he would dress fly, but like in a street casual type of way. You know what I mean? But another thing about Mac Man, work ethic was relentless. You know, work ethic was like, I don't really know I don't really know too many cats, young or old, that had the same type of work ethic as Mac Man. This man was like a workaholic when it stayed in the pimp's place, which is in the 304's face, constantly at a 304. And if you with Mac Man, he's not only gonna be working extremely hard, but he gonna make sure that you work hard too. You know what I mean? You know, he'll get at a broad, and then the next broad to come along, he'll tap you on the arm like, okay, your turn. You know what I mean? And he liked being around young pimps. That's one thing that I came to find out later on, man, because, you know, after I met Mac Man and would go cross country, it was a lot of pimps that knew him, period. But it was especially a lot of young pimps that knew Mac Man, right? And I think he just liked being around the young pimping because of the energy, you dig? But like I said, he stayed working, and if you was around Mac Man, he was gonna make sure that you was working too. You know, that y'all was taking turns getting at 304s, or if it's a group of 304s, y'all getting at them together and all that type of shit, and he gonna break the ice. Like he was just a workaholic type of dude. And between his work ethic, his mental brilliance, and you know, he's another motherfucker with mouthpiece, personality, and all that shit. But another thing about Mac Man, Mac Man is he hard on the bitch, like for real. He gonna check a bitch, like even if he just met the bitch and she say something out of line, he gonna check her immediately. But he might still end up having the bitch after that. You know what I mean? I remember Ice Jerry, old school Ice Jerry out of Hollywood, man. Shout out to Ice Jerry. He another older fly, you know, veteran pimp, right? But Ice Jerry was telling us a story one time. We was in Hollywood kicking it. And he was telling us a story about back in the days when him and Mac Man was young, right? And they was getting at this bitch. They was like, you know, playing they was like ping ponging the bitch. You know, we called it a double max squeeze. They got the bitch in the double max squeeze where they both getting at her, right? And the nigga Ice Jerry, you know what I mean? He popping, you know, my Ice Jerry is a smooth like mouthpiece, you know, like, you know, he got away with words and shit like that. So he popping his shit at her, but he on some smooth shit. He charming the bitch, you know what I mean? And he saying all this smooth fly shit to the bitch and he popping it, you know? But Mac Man come through like, bitch, you raggedy ass bitch, wooty. Like Mac Man talking shit to the bitch. And Ice Jerry, he was like, yeah, next thing I know, Mac Man got the bitch, you know? You know what I mean? So that's one thing, I guess, obviously from his younger years to his older years, you know, Mac Man, he just always been hard on the bitch. And he gonna check shit immediately, right? He's a no tolerance type of guy. But even in spite of the no tolerance energy, you know, he still had charisma. He still had mouthpiece. He still was charming. You know what I mean? And he still didn't have no problem in his 50s knocking a young bitch and then pimping up a storm after he knock a young bitch. You dig? So yeah, man, you know, I'm saying all of this, and as I'm saying all of this for the veteran pimps that might be going through it right now, I hope that these stories is firing you up and charging you up and putting you in remembrance of the things that you done in your career. You dig? Because just because you might be older right now don't mean that you can't still do these same things, man. Because, you know, it's a young bitch somewhere that's dying to have your pimping and just don't even know it yet. She's dying to come cross paths with a motherfucker like you. She just don't even know it yet. You dig? She probably living some little boring, uneventful life, working at some dead-end job that she don't like, living in her parents' house, and she can't wait to, get up the money or have the opportunity to move out the house, or she might, whatever the case is, man, she dying to meet you. She dying to have your pimping in her life. She just don't even know it yet. You know, and see, this is why you got to stay available. You got to stay fly, got to stay sharp. You know what I mean? You can't allow your circumstance to discourage you to the point where you ain't keeping yourself up to par. Hey, man, a lot of us pimps who done leaked done did it. You know what I mean? I done had to do it where, you know, I might be sleeping in the car and I got a shower at the gym. You know what I mean? But I stay fly. I keep my clothes in the cleaners. You dig? And I stay sharp and I do what I got to do. Or it might be times where a pimp don't have a car. And you just laying your head wherever you can, you know, at your partner's house or a family member's house here and there, wherever you can. And, you know, like I said, shower at the gym if you got to, or shower at your family member's house, or get fresh over there if you got to, or your pimp partner's house, or whatever the case may be. You dig? But hey, man, you got to stay sharp, man. You got to stay on point. You got to stay fresh. You got to stay clean. You dig? Because you just never know when you might come across, you know, that next bitch, man. And, you know, you never know what a bitch might like. You might be thinking to yourself like, damn, you know, I can't get fresh the way I want to. You just got to do your best because you just never know what a young bitch might like. Man, hey, man, you just never know what a bitch might like, man. That's why you got to always stay available. You always got to stay in a pimp's place, which is in the 304's face, man. You always got to stay outside. You always got to stay available, and you always got to be paying attention because you just never know where your next 304 might come from. You got to stay available, man. You know, and social media is a beautiful tool as well. Now, you know, for those of us who've been around for a long time, man, and been exercising, pimping for a long time, you know, we like to be outside. You know, so that's a beautiful thing too. But, you know, don't get it twisted, man. You know, you still can use social media as a campaign. But I got to talk to a certain demographic of older pimps, right, who got this bad. Listen, man, you know, you don't want to have a whole profile of throwback pictures and throwback videos. You don't want to have a whole bunch of that. It's cool to do it a little bit here and there sometimes, man, but you don't want your whole profile to consist of throwback pictures and throwback videos, man. You don't want that, right? You know, and I know it's kind of hard for certain people because you be thinking to yourself like, oh, if she see what I'm capable of, if she see what I done before, you know, a bitch might, you know, appreciate that and want to choose me based on that. But listen, man, and see, this is another thing with speaking of that, another thing along with that a lot of veteran pimps got bad. You know, telling a young bitch that they done been rich 4 or 5 times or 3 or 4 times or whatever. Hey, man, a young bitch don't want to hear that, and you shouldn't even want a young bitch to hear that because she gonna think to herself like, damn, okay, he know how to get rich, but every time he get rich, he get back broke. You know what I mean? A young bitch thinking to herself like, damn, ain't the objective to get rich and stay rich? Like, why he done been rich 4 or 5 times? Why he keep going broke after every time he get rich? You know what I mean? And you got certain veteran pimps, man, that I've heard say that shit, and I know y'all done, you know, other pimps in the game, y'all done heard motherfuckers say shit like that too. And, you know, it's impressive to themselves. It makes them feel good about themselves, the fact that they capable of becoming rich that many times. But hey, man, you don't want to be telling no young bitch in her 20s or some shit like that, man, that you done been rich 4 or 5 times, but you're not rich right now. It'd be different if you was rich right now and you telling a young bitch like, yeah, I done been rich 4 or 5 times and you're rich right now. But when you're not rich right now, you don't need to be telling a young bitch about how many times you done been rich before. Don't do that. She don't give a damn about that. You know what I mean? And then see what you do with that is you might dilute your action. You might have had some real good action until you said some shit like that. You know what I mean? Because that be a problem too, man, with certain older cats, man. You know, they just talk too much about shit that a young bitch don't care about, and that's one of them. Young bitch don't care about how many times you done been rich. You know, and on that same token, you know, she don't want to hear about a lot of other shit that don't pertain to, you know, how she can benefit from being involved with you. You dig? That's what you want to focus on. You want to paint a picture to her that's gonna appeal to her, right? And you know, you got to think about, you know, intensifying her ambition. You got to feed her ambition, right? And feed her fire and desire. You know, plant the seed and then feed the fire and desire for her to want to fuck with your pimping. You know, and you saying how many times you've been rich, but you ain't rich right now. That's not gonna make her want to fuck with your pimping, man. You know, you wanna paint a picture to her about the beauties of the game and the possibilities of the game and what she's capable of in the game, especially having you in her life, right? That's the type of picture you want to paint to a young bitch, man. You know, but like I said, man, you know, and speaking of T-Mac, he's another one, man, that I done seen have action at a lot of young bitches, man. You know, and T-Mac was in his upper 50s and early 60s when I seen him getting action at a lot of different young bitches in their 20s and shit like that, right? You know, so you know, you can't let your age fuck with, you know, your psyche and your self-esteem, and you can't let your circumstance fuck with it neither, right? Hey, listen, man, come on, man, y'all tripping. Hey, man, it's 111 y'all up in here right now. Well, 115 of y'all up in here right now, and only 57 of y'all done wiped your feet off at the door when you stepped into a pimp's domain. Come on, man. Do a pimp a favor, man. That's all I ask. You dig? You ain't got to buy no ticket to get this game. You know, all you gotta do is wipe your feet off at the door. Show some respect. Hit that like button. You dig? And put some love in your body. It's another cat, man, whose name I ain't gonna mention. But it's another cat that I know. And man, he had a beautiful run with this chick, man. You know, now he knocked the chick. And when he knocked the chick, he was in his probably mid 40s. Early 40s. Yeah, probably early to mid 40s. But you know, he wasn't really on at the time when he knocked this chick. You know, but see, that's another thing too about a pimp, man. You just got to utilize game, man, because even if you ain't in position, even if you ain't got all the materials and all that type of shit or the finances, hey, man, if you utilize game, you can make your campaign, you know, effective and efficient. You just got to utilize game, right? So this cat that I'm talking about, man, like I said, at the time, he probably in his mid 40s or early 40s, something like that. And, you know, he wasn't in the best position financially, but he had game. And, you know, he was on a social network that I ain't going to mention, but he on a social network, and he ended up knocking this chick that had a reputation for bringing back hunks and chunks. Not kibbles and bits, but hunks and chunks, right? Came from some veteran pimping that laced her up. And she was just known for tearing it off in a big way. So Pimpin', he ended up knocking this chick, and she ended up coming through the door, the right way as a 304 should. And see, the beautiful thing about him is that, when this chick came, she already knew how to get money and big money, right? But see, this is why it's just crucial to pimp and have your own game and just, just not be satisfied with how a bitch is coming, but always be striving to make the bitch greater and always keep the bitch in the mindset of making herself greater, right? Because like I said, this bitch was known for, making the pimp rich and getting a whole bunch of money when she came to him. But as cold as she was, by the time he got a hold of her, he made her even colder. Man, he turned this bitch was already a monster. He turned this bitch into a monster on steroids. Like he laced her up with even more game and made her even colder. And man, it was disgusting how much money this bitch was bringing this motherfucker, man. And see, I want y'all to pay attention to what I'm saying, because a lot of times a pimp will knock a bitch that know how to get money, and she bringing it back so beautifully that, pimp will just be satisfied with that and just like leave it on cruise control. But see, what I want you to understand about the pimpin' who I'm talking about that knocked this bitch, he had a bigger vision for his pimping and for, the capabilities of this bitch. Once he got a hold of her and, seen how her horn was and seen what she was capable of, he poured even more game into her and made her even colder. She came cold already. Like any pimp would have been glad to knock this bitch and have her doing what she already knew how to do. But man, he just wasn't satisfied with that. This is how highly he thought of his pimping. And, this was a chick in her 20s. Like I said, he's in his mid 40s at the time, or early 40s. And same thing, like I said about the other pimping that was older. He got charisma up the ass, intelligent, like one of the coldest pimps that I know mentally. Like as far as mental capacity, the cat that I'm talking about right now, he one of the coldest. It ain't too many that's gonna be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with him mentally, right? And personality like a motherfucker, mouthpiece like a motherfucker, funny as hell. Like nigga could have been a comedian if he really wanted to. You know what I mean? Like just a cold pimp. Game up the ass, like ridiculous game. And that's why I'm saying, like, with the amount of game and the type of game that he had in the pimp mind that he had, he got a hold of this bitch and turned her up even higher than she was already turned up. And so with that being said, man, he had a beautiful run with this bitch. I want to say he had like maybe like a 3 or 4 year run with this bitch. And man, disgusting amounts of money. Money that'll make you like sick just to look at. You know what I mean? Like that bitch was tearing it off to him, man. So and like I said, this bitch was in between folks. Like he didn't knock her from some pimping. Like she came from some pimping that laced her up and had her game tight. But at the time when he got up on the bitch, she didn't have no folks. She had got out on whoever she was with, and she was, in between folks at the time. But she had a bankroll ready for whoever she was going choose, you dig? And so he didn't really have much going on financially. Like he might not even had a car or a crib, No, you know what? He did have a car, but he might not have had a crib. And he definitely wasn't like owned, like he wasn't banked up or no shit like that. You dig? But I mean, he wasn't banked up financially, but one thing he was banked up on for sure was pimping. One thing he was banked up on for sure was game. And he knew right what to do with this bitch when he got a hold of her. You dig? So what I want you to understand is that he didn't allow his circumstance to interfere with his campaign, because that's a problem that a lot of pimps got too, right? Especially veteran pimps, or just pimp. A lot of pimps. Period. When they not in the best situation right now, they'll see a bitch that got her shit together and think to themselves like, oh man, I can't knock this bitch, man. She living like this. She got this crib over here. She driving this. She got this bag and that bag, and her jewelry game is like this and that and the third. And because they might not, they situation might not be equivalent or greater than the bitch, they allow themselves to get discouraged. But you got to remember something that bitch don't have that's more valuable than everything that she has, and that's your pimping. Because I don't give a fuck what nobody say. If a bitch got all this shit going on, somewhere along the line, the game came from the pimping. Right? Even if she ain't never fucked with no pimping, she probably was cool with a bitch that fucked with some pimping before and gave her some game that ultimately came from the pimping. But it all traces back to the pimping. And this bitch may have all the money and the jewelry and the car and the crib and all that shit, and you might not have none of that shit right now. But like I said, one thing that you got that's greater than everything that bitch got is some pimping. The pimping is greater than all that shit, because the pimping can create that shit like that. And 9 times out of 10, it's just the truth. It's just the facts. Anybody in the game really noticed that, like, a bitch who doesn't have if a bitch go too long without folks, shit falls apart. Shit almost always falls apart. And I don't say that like I'm wishing it on a bitch or no shit like that, but it's just the truth, man. If a bitch go too long without pimping, 9 times out of 10, man, everything gonna fall apart. This is a big part of the reason why a hoe need a pimp. But, like I said, the pimping, the value of the pimping is greater than any material or monetary possession that this bitch could ever acquire. The most valuable thing in her life is always going to be the pimping. Nothing is going to be more valuable to this bitch than that. And, blessings to the bitch, the 304s in the game that understand that. Blessings to the 304s in the game to understand that the most valuable thing you ever gonna have in your life, bitch, is some pimping. The pimping is more valuable than whatever closet you got and whatever clothes and purses and shit that you got inside that closet, whatever vehicle you might be driving, whatever condo or house or whatever you might be living in, bitch. The pimping is more valuable than all that shit, because all that shit is perishable. All that shit could come and go. But, ain't none of that shit stronger than the pimping or more valuable than the pimping. So the pimping is always going to be the most valuable thing, the most valuable possession that you can acquire and put in your life. Some pimping. Give me just a second, y'all. Oh shit, I think I fucked up the camera. Okay. That's a little bit better. I think I could fix it some more. Yeah, man. But yeah, Pimp, man, you got to remember, man. You got to put yourself in remembrance, man, because we all, I don't give a fuck what nobody say. Everybody make it sound good and look good on social media, man. But the fact of the matter is, and those of us that's really true to the game understand this, man. But if you have ever truly pimped, then you have leaked before. You have went through it before, right? We all done went through it. And you just got to remember them times, man, you know, where you might have been going through it and how you persevered through them circumstances, how you pimped up out of that situation. You got to remember them times, man. We all done been through it. You know, because when you remember them times and you understand that you're the same person that pimped up out of them past situations before, you know, which means you're the same individual that can pimp out of this situation right now. You can pimp your way up out of this situation right now. You're the same individual. You got the same mental capacity. You got the same charisma, same mouthpiece, same game. Only your game should be better because you done lived more and you done went through more and you've experienced more. So you should be wiser, right? So, you know, the pimping is just like any other muscle, man. Like how your body got muscle memory, the pimping got muscle memory too, right? And see, sometimes, you know, especially in today's times, because it's so many things, like I've said, you know, what's different about today's times with the game as opposed to times past is that to females in the game, there are so many different things that look better to a chick in the game than the pimping. It was a time before in the past where the pimping was the best looking thing, the most appealing thing to a chick in the game was the pimping. Nothing appealed to a chick in the game more than the pimping, right? As far as like types of men. Because, you know, a chick didn't want to be in personal, a chick didn't want to have no personal involvement with anybody other than a pimp because she understood that if it's not a pimp, then 9 times out of 10, this is a trick. This is somebody that I can control. And I don't need to be with a man that I control because that's a liability. This is what more chicks in the game understood in the past, right? Now, you've always had every type of person in the game. So in the past, you've always had chicks that, you know, just had a thing for tricks and just wanted to be with a trick. You dig? But any real serious 304, you know, understands that, you know, the pimping is the best thing for him. But nowadays, a lot of these chicks are attracted to various different types of tricks, especially tricks that have clout or money or both, or material things or what have you. You know, a lot of chicks in the game are attracted to these types of dudes that, you know, that are anything but the pimping. Right? Now, of course, them types of chicks, they ain't never really experienced the pimp. They probably done gave somebody their money before. They ain't never really been locked in with a pimp and really got pimped on before. Because it's different. It's like being a vampire. Once you get bit and you turn into a vampire by another vampire, you just have to have blood after that. Right? Now imagine a vampire just hanging out with a mortal human being and just being cool with him, and you know they need some blood, but they gonna spare this human being, this mortal, and let him, you know, just live, even though they need some blood right now because they just so cool. Nah, that's how I look at 304s that want to be cool with tricks. It's like you a vampire, this trick, his bankroll is the blood that you need to survive as a vampire, but you just want to be in a relationship with this motherfucker. You want to be his girlfriend. Even if this trick is a actor or a comedian or athlete, rapper, whatever, he's a trick. But, you know, you just, because he's such a cool trick, a trick with clout, money, or fame or whatever, you just gonna spare the bankroll. You gonna spare the blood because he's just so cool. You just want to be in a relationship with him. That shit is crazy, right? So I understand this, and but the thing about it is, one thing that none of these tricks have, and that this chick don't have, that you have, is the pimping within. In the game that comes with the pimping. The pimp mind that comes with the pimping. The spirit of pimping that comes with the pimping. The wisdom that comes with the pimping. The outlook, the foresight, the vision that comes with the pimping. Your ability to see things that the squares can't see. Your ability to see things that the hoe can't see. And how you can use that to your advantage as the pimping. Right? We just have a certain type of foresight. We just know how to read situations and people in ways that nobody else can. Right? You got to think about the things that make you unique as a pimp. Even if you might be in your 40s and your 50s and you might not have, the best situation right now, you have to remember the things that make you unique as the pimping. There's so many things that make you unique, that set you aside from every other human being on this planet. Because you some pimping. You just got to really sit back and put yourself in remembrance, man. Like, just think about everything about you that makes you unique and distinguishes you from every other human being on this planet. Right? Think about them times where a 304 was in a situation and she didn't know what to do. But because you have a pimp mind, you just immediately knew what to do. Immediately knew how to instruct her on how to get up out that situation or make the most of that situation where she would have lost the opportunity if she didn't have you in her life. Man, you see this, and this is something that a lot of 304s, or like, I ain't gonna say 304s because 304s fuck with pimps, but this is something that a lot of chicks in the game are not going to talk about, right? This is something that a lot of chicks in the game is going to bury in the back of their memory and throw a lot of shit on top of and try to forget about, but it's just the facts. And pimping know this shit, right? Hey, man, it's so many chicks that either are renegades or, a chick paying a scammer or a gangbanger or a hustler or whatever, anything but a pimp, which is still a renegade, but somebody that's paying somebody that ain't a pimp or not paying nobody at all, right? Just a motherfucker that ain't got the game. Listen, man, it done been so many chicks in the game who've had golden opportunities. They'll be right there with the trick, and this will be a potentially big lick, but they don't have the game or the guidance, and whoever they fucking with don't have the game or the guidance. So the opportunity just slips through their hands, or they might get some crumbs where they were supposed to get some hunks and chunks. Man, there's so many situations in the game like that. On the flip side of that token, there's been so many situations in the game where a 304 will be in that situation and have that opportunity and not know what to do, but she got a pimp to call. And pimping is going to know exactly what to do in that situation. And he going to instruct her and lace her and guide her through that situation, and she's going to make the most of it. And then it's going to be cause for celebration. You dig? Yeah, it's different when you got a pimp to call, right? So if you's a pimp and you have been that pimp to call in times past, you gotta put yourself in remembrance. That's like, this is what I'm talking about. Those things that make you unique as a pimp, those things that distinguish you from every other human being on the planet. See, when that 304 in that situation and she got a potentially big lick on the line, she got a big fish on the hook, and she trying to reel that motherfucker in, but she don't have the strength to do it by herself, and she need to call somebody. She can't call her mama. She can't call her brother. She can't call her auntie or uncle or nobody like that. She got to call a pimp. And you're that pimp that she can call. Come on, man. You got to remember who you is, pimp. You got to remember the shit you done did in your life before, man. Hey, that's why I say this pimping do wonders, man. Man, ain't nobody like us, man. Can't nobody fuck with us. Hey, man, can't nobody fuck with you, pimp. You's a pimp, man. Can't nobody fuck with you on this planet, man. Come on, man. You's a pimp. You's the top of the food chain, man. Can't nobody fuck with you. I don't give a fuck if you ain't got a penny in your motherfucking pocket right now. Guess what you got a whole bunch of? These motherfuckers wish they had, but they can't never have. Pimping. Come on, man. Remember who you is, pimp. We the ones, man. We the ones. Hold on a second. Hold up. Wait a minute. Elevation Movement. Good looking with the $5 holla. Much appreciated, man. Yeah. Yeah, man, but like I said, man, you just got to remember who you is, man. This circumstance don't amount to who you is, man. You's a pimp. You got to remember them times, man. You know, and it's nothing like that, man. You know, when you can guide a 304 through a situation and then y'all come together, man, and just bask in the moment. Hey, man, it's a beautiful thing. For real, for real. But yeah, man, you know what? I'm gonna keep this one kind of short and sweet, even though for me, you know, an hour is short. You dig? But I just wanted to chop this shit and pop this shit, man, and allow the pimping to have a point of reference. You know, a reminder, something that they can come to for some motivation, man. If you ever need to be motivated, man, all you got to do is come back and watch this video, man, and it'll put you, it'll feed your spirit of pimping. It'll fire you up. It'll remind you of what you're capable of, which is the sky's the limit as far as what you're capable of, man. For real. $50 floors up. Good looking with the $2 holla. You neglected the Patreons. I know it might seem that way right now, but it's a couple of things. It's some things that I want to do on Patreon, especially with Sinful's Patreon, that I'm kind of being held up on, man. I got like an obstacle or two in my way when it comes to his Patreon. My Patreon, I got some things that I want to do as well, and but I don't really have like the same issues with my Patreon that I do with Sinful's Patreon. But yeah, it's gonna be some good things coming on Patreon. I'll say that. Shay Shay 3000, good looking with the $2 holla. Reap Cash, good looking with the $20 holla. I hit the blade trying to knock something. A few 304s got out of pocket, and her dude let me let her work, or her dude told me let her work, but wasn't no trick in sight. What do you think of those types of situations? Yeah, man, I've talked a lot about that type of shit, man. But you know, what I tell them dudes, man, and some of y'all done heard me say this before, but what I tell them dudes is like, hey, listen, man, you trying to tell me what to do because you ain't figured out how to tell her what to do. Your job is to tell her what to do. Your job is not to tell me what to do. As long as I'm not touching her, as long as I'm not getting in the way of her money, your job ain't to tell me what to do. Your job is to tell her what to do. Tell her what to do. You know what I mean? If you don't want me talking to this bitch, tell her to do something to prevent me from talking to her. Like getting a 304's place, which is in the trick's face. Now, you said traffic was kind of dead, wasn't really no action going on, and it be like that. But see, you know, a lot of times, man, you can't even reason with them type of dudes. They really ain't got no business in the game, and I wish they'll go find something else to do because they really ain't got no business, you know, perpetrating themselves as a pimp. But like I say all the time, man, you know, you got all these, you got so many motherfuckers in the game. They got the money, they got the jewelry, they got the mouthpiece. They could talk real good and sound slick and all that. They got the presentation down packed. But I don't give a fuck about none of that shit. The most pimpish thing that you will ever see is how a pimp handles himself when another pimp is trying to have that bitch or end up with the bitch. That's the most pimpish thing you're going to see. Not a motherfucker hitting a lick for $1 million or, you know, a motherfucker with a bunch of bitches, you know, listening to him and all that type of shit. The most pimpish thing you going to see is how a pimp handle that phone call when he get knocked, or how a pimp handle his 304 getting sweated on the blade. Especially, or not even just on the blade, just anywhere. 304 getting sweated at the liquor store, the grocery store, motherfucking hotel lobby, wherever she at, getting sweated. You know? And see, a lot of these dudes don't teach a bitch how to handle herself in them situations. That's why so many bitches be out of pocket. Because these dudes, they just tell a bitch to go get some money and that's it. And they put their hand out. They don't teach a bitch every aspect of the game, including how to handle themselves when they getting sweated. These dudes don't teach that type of shit. Right? A bitch supposed to know what to do when she getting sweated. But the only thing they tell a bitch to do is call me. If a nigga say something to you, bitch, call me. But that's not her job. And it's not your job to get called whenever a pimp is doing his job. That's not your job. But that's the only thing these bitches know how to do. They getting sweated, call whatever dude they fucking with, and have him come play Kevin Costner, the bodyguard, and come bodyguard the bitch away from the pimping. That's not the part of the game. That's not how the game go. But that's what a lot of these dudes is gonna do, man. You kind of just gotta accept that, man. Hey, man, it's a harsh reality, but like I say, the most pimpish thing you ever gonna see from a motherfucker is them not tripping or interfering with a pimp's work when the pimping is working at his bitch and how he handled that phone call. That's the most pimpish shit you gonna ever see. It ain't got nothing to do with no money or none of that type of shit. Right? You know, now what they don't understand is, like me, I want you to sweat mine, especially if it's a fresh bitch, if she fresh in the game or fresh to outside or fresh to the carpet or the blade or whatever. If she brand new to some shit, I want you to sweat this bitch. Especially if she's not used to being sweated and she ain't never really been outside and had a pimp on her heels or none of that type of shit. I want you to sweat my bitch. because it's gonna show me a lot about her. You know, I want to understand this bitch to a T, and that's gonna give me a lot of understanding about this bitch by letting her get sweated. You know, now the first time she gets sweated, she might call me, but she gonna learn real quick that that's not the move. Bitch, I'm not finna come rescue you, especially away from a pimp. Bitch, if you like the motherfucker, then hey, do what you gotta do to get with him. But if you don't like the motherfucker, then get off the phone with me, bitch. Don't call me again and go handle my business. I done already told you what to do in this type of situation. I know it's brand new to you, bitch. And okay, I grant you this one time of calling me, you know, because it's your first time going through it. But now that you've experienced it and I've already laced you on how to handle yourself in this situation, bitch, don't call me no more. Don't call me unless a motherfucker hurting you or you talking to a trick and he like getting in the way of that. If it ain't about that, bitch, don't call me. Right? But these dudes, they be so in love with these bitches and be having their nose so far deep up in their booties that, you know, they don't want nobody talking to their baby. Not my baby. Don't talk to mine. You know what I mean? You know, and what kills me is these same dudes that be tripping about you saying something to they bitch. Boy, they'll sweat your bitch, you know, for a green mile. They'll sweat your bitch from motherfucking from Lake Tahoe to Idaho. They'll sweat your bitch from motherfucking Elk Grove, California to Elk Grove, Illinois. They'll sweat your bitch like it's no tomorrow. But boy, if you even look at they bitch, hey P, that's my bitch. You ain't gotta say nothing to the bitch. And then they tell you that's they bitch, like that's supposed to make you like, yeah, I'm finna sweat this bitch in front of you. What are you talking about? As a matter of fact, you done sweated my bitch in front of me. You just don't know what bitch it is because I didn't tell you that was my bitch. But yeah, P, you done sweated my bitch in front of me. So just like you sweated my bitch in front of me, I'm going to show you how this shit go. Notice how you don't even know who my bitch is, but I'm telling you, you sweated her in front of me. Because when you was sweating her, nigga, I didn't say nothing to you. I let you do your job and I let her do her job. And I did my job, which was to sit back and stay pimping. Everybody did their job. But see, now you're trying to interfere with my job and her job. Her job is to stay in pocket. You're not letting her do that because you didn't teach her how to do that. And my job is to pimp. And you're trying to interfere with me doing my job because you don't know how to do your job. You see how that shit work? You know what I mean? These dudes be crazy, man. Lavish, good looking with the $5 holler. Dope man asking to get roasted. He was on you last night. Check his YouTube. Yeah, man, people been getting at me about that bullshit, man. But listen, man, that motherfucking video going double plastic right now, man. Ain't nobody watching that nigga, man. Only thing I'm mad about is the fact that Too Real for TV is being, you know, associated with that shit. You know, I don't know who let that nigga get a hold of Too Real for TV or get involved with it or anything like that. But, man, Too Real for TV got too cold of a legacy to be allowing a sucker-ass motherfucker like that to be involved with it, man. But I ain't finna acknowledge that nigga, man. I'm Freeze, man. I'm Freeze, man. I'm too busy being fly, too busy being a cold motherfucking pimp, too busy enjoying life. I'm in motherfucking Colombia, doing what I want to do, how I want to do it, living my life, man, enjoying myself, you know, being an asset to the people that I love, still being an asset to the game, being a blessing to the game, you know, being a voice on the internet to the game that ain't really out there like that. You did anywhere else. You did giving it to the game only the way Freeze gonna give it to the game. You did. I'm too busy being a blessing to the game right now, man. Fuck, I look like acknowledging some nigga named Dope Man that fuck with trannies and all type of shit, man. Come on, man. I'm Freeze. That motherfucker, he wished that I, you know, dedicate some time and energy to him, man. Hell no. Lame ass nigga, man. I ain't got no time for that shit. That's the only air he gonna get right here, right now. That's it. It's over with. Moving forward. Yeah, man. You know, when you the pimping, man, it's a lot of people that want your attention that don't deserve it. And you gotta sometimes remind yourself that you gotta wisely delegate your time and energy and attention to the right people, places, and things. Everybody, everything, and every place don't deserve your motherfucking attention, man. When you's a valuable pimp like Freeze, come on, man. You know? And it's crazy because when I be quiet, when I be on my little internet hiatuses and shit like that, uh, motherfuckers don't be having nothing to say about Freeze. It be when Freeze get to being consistent on the internet like I have been lately, and I start getting some traction and motherfuckers start seeing my face and my voice everywhere, and motherfuckers be talking about me in a good way. This is when the haters come out, or let me not say haters, because that individual right there, that's a fan. But this is when the fans come out, talk their little shit. That's just a fan though. And that's another reason why, I can't acknowledge people like that, and it's a waste of time and all that. That's a fan. I know a fan when I see one. I know a fan when I hear one. You know what I mean? The motherfuckers just be fans of a pimp, man. So I'm going to keep giving the fans what they want, which is this game, which is me just being on the internet doing what I do. This is what the fans want, man. You got it. The fans who show love and the fans who act like they ain't got love, but they really do deep down inside, man. I know you's a fan, man. Don't worry, I ain't gonna let you down. I'm gonna keep being the pimp that you wish you was. I'm gonna keep being the pimp that you look up to. I'm gonna keep being the pimp that you learn from and get motivated and inspired by. Yeah, I'm gonna keep being that pimp. You dig? Freeze ain't gonna let you down. I'm gonna keep being your favorite pimp, man. Don't worry about it, man. I got you covered. Like, you know what I mean? Like Allstate, man, you in good hands with this pimping, man. I'm gonna keep being the pimp that you admire, that you wish you was, and all of that, man. That you learn from, that you get inspired by. Yeah, that's me. I'm gonna keep being that. So don't worry. I got you covered, man. You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. Yeah, man. Motherfuckers talk about Freeze, but they got some Air Freezes on their feet right now. You know what I mean? They got the number 16 Freeze jersey on their back right now. You know what I mean? They got the Freeze poster on the motherfucking wall. You know what I mean? That they look at every time they lay down and go to bed. Every time they wake up, man, they got Freeze's it poster on the motherfucking wall. I hope it's not a poster with Freeze shirt off, because that's weird. And a lot of niggas like, as we know, motherfuckers like looking at Freeze with his shirt off, man, and showing their wife and shit like that, man. But hey, man, that's not cool. But hey, you can have a poster of Freeze on your wall just as long as it ain't Freeze with his shirt off, man. You dig? You know what I mean? Shout out to my fans, man. I love y'all, man. Ain't no me without y'all. You dig? I love my fans, man. Just stay tuned in. That's all you got to do. It's cool. Oh man, I'm about to wrap this shit up though, man. I done talked enough shit for the night, man. And like I said, man, shout out to the veteran pimping. Stay on fire about this shit. Stay chopping it with the game. You dig? Stay in remembrance of who you are. Remember what makes you different and special in this world. Remember the value that you have and what makes you valuable to a 304 and why 304 needs you in her life, man. Whether she know it or not. You gon' bless her with the knowing that you belong in her life. You dig? But yeah, man. We gonna go ahead and wrap this shit on up. As always, I appreciate y'all for tuning in and tapping in with a pimp. I appreciate y'all for sharing this video. I appreciate you for all the comments, questions, input, jokes, feedback, all that good stuff. I appreciate you for subscribing and hitting the bell when you subscribe. I appreciate all the super chats, the cash apps, the PayPals. I appreciate your support in every which way that you comes with it, man. Y'all already know who it is and what it is. Freeze is it. If you out in traffic moving around, please do so in a safe fashion. And of course, as always, long live the incomparable Sinful to P. We out.